This is Mark Francis Leba, and I'll be responding to an article entitled The Social Marketer's Burden, the Ethical Implications of Power Differentials in Social Marketing Segmentation. Let's begin. I hope you enjoy it. So firstly, what is social marketing? The definition I'll be using suggests that it is the adaptation and adoption of commercial marketing activities, institutions, and processes as a means to induce behavioral change in a targeted audience on a temporary or permanent basis to achieve a social goal. The metaphor of social marketing as the hammer aptly elucidates this point, as the nail which it is put to use to is dictated not by social marketing itself, but rather the decision makers who put it to use. It is in this sense amoral. Now let's define market segmentation theory. Market segmentation is the process of dividing a larger market into smaller pieces based on one or more meaningfully shared characteristics, and it is as a result of market fragmentation. Now this takes us to our next point. Given that market segmentation is based on businesses and that social marketing by our definition is concerned with social goals, is it then ethical to use market segmentation in social marketing? If we take a look at Obama and his rich counterpart here, they have different goals. Can it be used ethically? I argue that it is ethical and usable because both start from a state of scarcity, as you can see here, and both aim to achieve the maximization of value. It's simply that the metrics of value can differ between business and government. Yet this difference exists also between businesses, hence the importance of adaptation. Given we live in a monetary society, the monetization of value is a metric used by government and businesses alike. The monetization of value, when used in conjunction with other metrics, offers a good way to measure the effectiveness of an action. In addition, objectives are assumed to be moral, as social marketing is an amoral tool. The next issue. Given the propensity of social marketing to target the underprivileged, the question becomes, are they being targeted because they have the greatest need or because they are the easiest targets? Well, as we'll see, it depends on the criteria. Through the lens of power differentials, it must be noted that the social goal or social good is defined by those with authority and influence. Assuming the underprivileged have the least social value and power, they will theoretically always have the most incentive to and least ability to resist social marketing messages. The underprivileged are assumed to contribute the least and therefore will always be regarded by the criteria setters, who are the ones with power, as in most need. Essentially, the ones in power are the ones who set the rules. The resistance of inner city neighborhoods in Los Angeles to social marketing is the exception that proves the rule. The result was harsher 3-strike penalties. Here we see that the authorities set the undesired behavior, and when those in most need of change failed to change, they simply switched tools. Now we move on to the question, is social marketing similar to Western moral imperialism? I think yes, because both are based on assumed, perceived or actual economic, social, or moral superiority. Also, good has a subjective definition defined by those in power. Smith 2007 asks in his title, why don't we ever ask what rich people need? This point is enlightening, and as you can see here in the slides, it has changed from racism and the characteristics of color to the characteristics of worldview and behavior. Both social marketing today and Western moral imperialism can both be seen very similarly through the lens of the politics of retention, that is, the politics of retaining power, and also to the battle of ideas between two parties. When we look at things like healthcare and road safety, these seem like positive things to communicate with social marketing. And some contest universal values are existent, and the communication of these negates necessity of moral superiority. Rather, I conclude the existence of universal values between parties is a convenience rather than a necessity. The next issue is on diffusion theory, which argues it is better to target the superordinate referent groups who have more influence. And the question is raised if by targeting the disadvantaged, is social marketing failing to maximize value and contribute to the greater good? I argue that the superordinate referent groups don't need it. Referent groups already have socially valuable behaviors. Exchange theory suggests that there must be an exchange of value. Referent groups with high value behaviors are not likely to accept the exchange, which means that it would be a waste of resources. Exchange in social marketing is not a restricted exchange, but rather a complex exchange, which means the variables, which is society, representations of society like government, and the groups within society, define each other, which means targeting the other groups other than referent groups will influence society, which in turn will influence reference groups, which in turn affect other groups. Also, it is a matter of the degree of variables, since degree of influence in diffusion differ, true, but degree of need also differs. Thus, targeting referent groups will only be more effective if there will be a high likelihood of acceptance, and if the degree of diffusion outweighs the effects that stem from the higher level of need by the target end user group. In conclusion, social marketing is a tool, and it is those in or with power that determine the course of action.